Welcome to the Oyster Aero Pearlcast, where we sit down with founders and leaders shaping the aviation industry, from freshly formed startups to the biggest names in the sky. This episode is brought to you by our friends at Turbo Resources in Phoenix, Arizona, now operating in 450,000 square feet of state-of-the-art warehouse space. Turbo continues to keep the aviation industry flying and is actively buying material. Now, we hope you enjoy this episode.
Everyone, Jeff Yergy with the Oyster Aero Pearlcast, and I'm really happy today to be joined by Ben Rhodes-Kraupf of Sales Patriot. How you doing, Ben?
I'm awesome. I just flew in last night on a red eye from New York, but I'm happy to be here and thank you for having me.
Sure. Yeah, we love founders. So, and what just your story on how you started has been pretty cool. Now, I met you or your team at Quad A in Nashville. You all were at the defense show. And
Yes.
what struck me is typically when you talk about founders of companies in aviation, generally it's people like me, right? Been in the business for 25 years and, wanted to take a crack at trying to solve for problems that have frustrated us over the years. But you're not a 30-year industry veteran, are you?
No, I'm not even 30 years old, so it'd be hard to make that happen.
So before we get into like Sales Patriot, how did you find yourself falling into aviation?
Yeah, it's a really great question. I think it's really just been funny running around all these conferences because it's like, wait, who are those kids, right? Like, who let someone's kids in here? Like, what are they doing? Why are they like, dropping out of MIT to go make this crazy stuff? So I think it's actually been really funny because, having that little aspect of like, oh, this is weird. I've never seen these faces before, right? Why are they so young? What are they doing?
For sure.
And yeah, I think in some sense it's like, how do we fall into this? A really good question. So at the time, I was just graduating high school. I was researching AI at MIT, specifically around quantizing large language models. How do you make them small enough to run on edge devices instead of in the cloud? And I had just gotten into MIT and a few other schools, including Berkeley MET, which is like a dual degree business and engineering program. So I ended up flying out there and meeting a lot of these really interesting people that were just really focused on the intersection between business and engineering. That's like really my crowd. And that's where I
Right.
bumped into my co-founder, Nelson, who at the time was actually chief of staff at a defense firm. So good family friend of his had just sort of taken over this dying defense firm. And onboarded him same day, gave him the org chart and said, just go meet people, go talk to people, figure out what's going on here. And at the time they were making lights and wire harnesses, and they were just having a really hard time with their sort of volume. Like just their sales volume was the major problem because right at the time they were going on to Dibs, printing these contracts, putting them together with the tech docs, and then shuffling these paper folders, around the factory floor to go make this happen, right? To prepare the bid to compile the quote. And Nelson saw this and was like, guys, what are you doing? You got papers falling off your desk. Like, let's just digitize this process. Let's make it easier, right? Like, any transformation going from paper to digital is going to have some effect, but I don't think Nelson really expected to see just the amount of volume that then increased. Long story
Sure.
short, they end up, turning the firm around essentially, finally go cash flow positive for the first time in 4 years. And that's when Nelson was like, okay, there's something here, right? Like what I don't know what this industry is. I just built this simple tool, but like, how can we go capitalize on this? And that's sort of when I bumped into Nelson at Berkeley and he was building these solutions. And I was just so blown away because I'm like, I'm sorry, what are you, your chief of staff at a like defense manufacturing firm making lights and wire harnesses? Like just out of this world, right? And so that's where I was really like, hey, how can I join you on this journey, right? What can we go and build here? How can we combine, the industry experience I'm bringing in the AI world with sort of this really interesting intersection with just like component level manufacturing. And so
Yeah.
that's really how we got going. Ended up raising some money out in Silicon Valley as a pre-seed round to go and solve this problem. And then really the problem sort of evolved from there as we just learned more about the industry, right? I mean, we knew not very much. And so it's running around meeting people like you at these conferences and just talking with them to figure out how we can solve people's problems.
That's cool. That's really cool. So yeah, I mean, you blew off MIT and Berkeley and we're like, no, I got to go solve this problem now. So
Got to go
that's
make it happen.
that's pretty awesome. So yeah, today, I mean, for years, there's plenty of bidding services out there. So,
Mhm.
oh, I get an email that says that this NFN just came out for bid or whatever. Are you just that? You just send the email and say, hey, you got a bid and good luck?
Yeah. So that's, I mean, really, that's how we started, right? And we were sort of naive, entered the industry, started going to all these conferences and talking to people. And how we had started was we were going to help you not just find, but we're also going to help you review and bid, right? One of the things we realized with a lot of these bidding services is they give you the opportunity, but then everything after that is sort of your own workflow, your own stuff. So you see the opportunity, and then you're going into your ERP system, or you're going into your email to email vendors. You're doing all this additional stuff on top of it. And just that fragmentation at that defense company was really causing a lot of those problems. So what we sort of said was, hey, instead of just finding, what if we did the end-to-end flow, and what would that look like, right? So we ended up running around all these conferences, talking to a lot of manufacturers, and what we really found was not just manufacturers had this problem, but distributors really had this problem, because maybe a manufacturer spends 10% of their time looking for opportunities, whereas a distributor 90% of their time is literally doing the supply chain optimization here to find the opportunity and mapping it to America's industrial base, right? So the thing we really focus on is processing all this data in a streamlined workflow, right? So whether you've got an opportunity coming from DIB, SAM, Nico, any sort of portal that you use, or any sort of email inbound, right? We are sort of standardizing that data using AI, and then we're really helping you workflow it with your supplier base. So we'll automatically map all those opportunities to potential suppliers. We're integrated into your email so you can select suppliers, send quotes out, and then AI will actually interact with your suppliers to go and make that happen, right? So right now it's just such a human process where they're sort of stuck in between all of these different systems, whether they're going to their ERP, they're going to their email, they've got Excel spreadsheets open, they're doing all this craziness, right? And really our goal is, hey, let's make a solid foundational data platform, and let's help people interact with AI on top of that to be able to streamline this process. So our catchphrase is really decisions, not data entry, and that's really what we're trying to bring to the industry.
So I think that's what really struck out to me, and that's why I invited you on the podcast. Is I was expecting when I walked up to your booth to another bidding service. Cool,
Mm-hmm.
but I feel like there's a lot of opportunity in streamlining, not just because you're taking that data entry cost out of your business, but so many companies don't bid on stuff because they don't want to deal, right? So if the deal isn't worth more than $1 million and they're saying no to 250,000, they're saying no to 100,000,
Right.
they're saying no to 500,000, because it's not worth their time to spend 4 to 6 weeks putting together not just their own capabilities, but capabilities of everybody else behind them.
Yes.
And so that to me is what is most striking about your system. Is it's not only that it's it's because of efficiency, you can tackle so much more work, right?
Right. I mean, goodness, I couldn't have said it better myself. I think that's sort of our like, you're letting the cat out of the bag, because it's just really what we see here is, by making someone 7x more efficient, it just changes the margins, right? Like, distribution is very much a margins game. And so if you're, 7 times more efficient, right? In terms of just like whether it's, I mean, with kitting, my goodness, think about how many different quotes you got to go out to get to put together a kit, right? Like, with all these different things, if it's like close to autonomous, the answer is the math fundamentally changes about how you should be doing distribution, right?
Sure.
And that's really what we've seen with the various industry partners we're now working with, where they're really having to go back to the drawing board and think about, hey, we had these certain rules about our margin levels or what size of contracts we could go after, but the answer is, when we can almost fully autonomously pursue an opportunity and work with our supplier base to make that happen, like, well, man, we're talking about something totally different.
And the other thing that was amazing to me is there's not a lot of people that have integrated with DIBs and are allowed to integrate with DIBs, and you went and got that done, right?
Yes. Yep. So we've got industry partners that help us do that. And then we're also going to be, one of the first companies in 15 years to actually go and make that happen. Right. And so that was one of the things we saw as the last sort of step in making this entire platform streamlined. Right. Like, again, decisions, not data entry. And so, once the platform is on board and we've really got it running, like, we see people using their mouse and not their keyboards. Right. Because the answer is the AI is taking care of all of the grunt work. And they're just saying, yes, I agree. Right. The supplier sends a quote back. We fully extracted the quote. We've drafted a follow-up email saying, hey, so sorry, you missed the country of origin, or you didn't quote the first article test, all of this stuff. Boom, just send that email back, right? Like, they didn't have to draft that. They didn't need to do anything. And all the way to the end, right? The answer is, if we have the entire supplier quote, we have all the information about the opportunity and the quote, we should also go ahead and fill out, the DIBs board as well. And so that when you hit submit here, it goes straight away and submits on DIBs as well.
So one of the other pain points in contracting, as you know, is, I mean, all the requirements, all the flow downs, all the compliance, the labor
Craziness.
versus cost versus materials.
Hmm.
So um, you're more than just getting prices from people, right?
Oh yeah. Yep. Yeah. I mean, I think this was actually one of the things we ran into early on about building this system. Is what we found is it really can't just be, an out of the box solution, right? A lot of these other services, you're spending X amount a year and it's just, here's the software, here's the login, good luck, have fun, right? What we've really had to do is go into these distribution facilities and go look at their exact workflows and the types of questions they ask, right? Because the answer is, an MRO facility is going to be looking for different things than someone else, right? So
Sure.
their customers are asking for different things. Everyone needs something different. And so being able to really create this pipeline in a way that is modular and able to change, right? The answer is we're going to be asking different questions. A request for quote is going to look different. Sometimes you need some sort of attachment asking for some sort of traceability, right? And you've got to be able to extract that. Sometimes you don't, right? So really, this is what has made it so difficult. And this is really where the AI shines, right? Like this is where we have a lot of fun in terms of being a bunch of kids coming out of some of these really interesting research labs that are focused on solving these really interesting, data problems and making sure that you can process everything and really make sure it's, done well.
Wow, that is so cool. And how many other are you on your team right now?
Yep. So we've currently got 7, and we're, hoping to double here in the next 2 to 3 months.
Sure.
So it's, we've really just recognized that this is such a pressing problem, that it's a question of, not if, but when, and how can we go make that happen faster, right? It's just like we are consistently seeing now with our current customers that they're like, hey, can you go apply these same frameworks and processes to my post-award process? We started in defense, going to these bid boards. Hey, can we do this commercially, right? We've got, sure, I've got 10 people on my defense side of the business, but I've got, 300, or I've got 50 people on my, commercial side of the business doing a very similar thing, except, instead of looking at DIBS or Nugo and SAM, they're looking at various emails coming in. They're looking at various OEM portals, right? Can we do those same things? And we've really built the software to be able to handle that. And so we're really just understaffed, right? It's like the biggest problem we have is, hey, let's go get really awesome, great AI talent and make it happen even faster.
Right. I mean, I used to run a Boeing MRO, and once a year we'd go out to all of our repair vendors and get firm fixed price contracts and all that. So this is exactly what you're talking about. And our compliance, even, is probably not as heavy as a government contract.
No, yes, I feel like we really bit our teeth in terms of the actual dealing with government first, because government just has so much of these problems, and then everything else is almost a little bit easier in comparison. And so I think it was actually really awesome that we sort of started in this weird way, starting at the component level manufacturer, and then understanding up through that the entire supply chain.
Sure. Yeah, and then obviously commercial derivative stuff would be good, and then you can maybe find your way into commercial too. So how's it going? I mean, when did you launch officially?
Goodness, it's funny. I don't think we've ever really had an official launch. We've always just kept building. So the answer is, we started with this component level manufacturer, and then someone else comes along, and we just start building that, right? Like it's really just been. So we went through, a YC batch, which is essentially an incubator, and they really say their thing is just launch every day, right? Like basically every single day you should be launching something new, rolling out something new. It's just that kind of pressure and that kind of
Right.
deliverability speed. And so we haven't even really had time to put together launch posts or feature posts or any of that. And to be quite honest, we haven't needed to, right? It's such a pressing problem that we've now got people coming to us and saying, oh my gosh, I heard you solve this over here. Can you solve this for me? Right.
Sure.
And so, I mean, we've been quite lucky. I can't exactly say when we've launched, but in terms of just how long the company's been around, we've been around now for 8 months now. And we're having a lot of fun so far. So we'll keep seeing how it goes.
Nice. And there is a Silicon Valley playbook. You're backed by some pretty powerful individuals as well, right?
Yes. Yeah, we've been pretty fortunate to have this kind of backing.
Yeah.
I did not see myself dropping out of college freshman year and raising some crazy sum of money and from really awesome people. Some people include like Rich Miner, co-founder of Android, Steve Blank, right, like Stanford Gordon Institute, just really, really interesting people that really were able to see this problem and say, okay, yeah, this needs to be solved. I believe in you guys that you guys can go make this happen. And they've been awesome to lean on throughout the journey to just, hey, we have no clue what we're doing, right? I think and we're pretty honest about that. And, being honest about that really enables us to learn quickly, right?
Sure. Yeah.
Being very honest has enabled me to say, okay, hey, I'm sorry, I don't understand this. Can you just explain it to me, right? And the speed of iteration and how much we've learned in just this short amount of time has really just, it's blown my mind. I knew nothing about this industry 8 months ago, right? And it's really, through people like you, to be quite honest, right? Who just take the time, and are really interested in what we're already doing, and then really interested to say, oh my gosh, have you thought about this? Or I'm like, no, I haven't thought about that. What do you mean? Right? That's been just a ton of fun connecting with people in the industry.
Very cool. And you went through Y-Combinator, right?
Yes.
You made it through
So we went through Y-Combinator Winter 25 batch. I was actually just back there the other day giving a talk on how to do sales, which I didn't think was something I knew how to do going into that thing. So it was quite the experience, and just was generally a ton of fun. I think, we didn't get to spend a lot of time in Silicon Valley during the YC batch, unfortunately, just because, if you go into the defense industry, the answer is it's, an in-person industry, right? Go to these conferences, shake these hands, talk to people, understand their problems, and, confidently say, hey, we can make this happen. We can solve this.
Very cool. Well, Ben, I absolutely love what you guys are doing, and I can't wait to see, how quickly you grow. And that's the one thing I will tell you is, once you're in the industry, you're not leaving. So, don't think you're going to jump to the restaurant industry after this or anything like that. So,
no, certainly not. Well, thank you so much, Jeff. Really appreciate you.
Yeah, it was great having you. Take care.
Awesome. Take care, guys. Thank you.
Bye.